We had a very good session this morning. I was following some of the opening sessions, and all the sessions that we had this morning was primarily to what I will say, the end result will be today, what we have to cater to the client satisfaction, the customer satisfaction. Whatever we discuss all over the day, the end result should be what will happen to the client satisfaction. So that is why it has been put to the end. And achieving customer satisfaction, how people, technology, and processes can meet and exceed customer satisfaction. Well, exceed is something that is of a hyperbole. So I don't want to even touch that we should exceed customer satisfaction. Even if we can meet the customer satisfaction, that is good enough. You know, in psychoanalysis, we have a saying that there is no such thing as a perfect mother or a perfect father. A good enough mother is already good for the children. So here also, we don't want to have overestimation to say that to exceed satisfaction, but if we have good enough satisfaction among the customers, that is already considered as good. So I'm very happy to have Othman Abdullah from Silverlake. He's been involved in so many banks providing IT and software services. And then Dato Nora is a very well-known participant in several conferences and carries the Maybank flag, which is probably one of the best banking service providers in the country and the largest bank as well. And then we have Professor Dato Dr. Azmi, who is involved in training the Islamic finance people so that they can provide customer satisfaction. And Dr. Nikolai from Kearney. You have dropped the word 80. Is that, I'm not sure, because now you call yourself Kearney.
Yes, we dropped it. We dropped it.
Oh, okay. Because in the 90s, I used to do a lot of work with Kearney when I was in Bank Utama as a board member. So we have 4 distinguished people, as the Master of Ceremonies said, from different areas. So I'm going to give the floor to each one of them for about 10 minutes, and we have a very good timekeeper. So after the 40 minutes discussion by the various people, the floor is yours. You talk about whatever that comes to your mind, although I did provide some guiding questions, but that was just from the top of my head. Please feel free to do whatever you think does justice to this session. And then we'll have probably about 15 minutes of group discussion with question and answer. So without further ado, maybe I'll call upon Che Othman to start your session. I think you have some slides as well, yeah?
Yes, Dr. Vaseehar, thank you so much. Yes, I do have slides. First of all, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Very good afternoon to everyone. Thank you to the organizer for having me here. I'm both honored and humbled to join the esteemed panelists. Yeah, as Dr. Vaseehar mentioned earlier on during the introduction, we're talking about customer satisfaction. So like Dato said, if we can meet is good enough, let's not even talk about exceed. As customer satisfaction is a very subjective topic, yeah, because some customer can be easily satisfied, but some other customers, will be more demanding and a bit more difficult. So one of the questions in this session is asking how can digital technologies help to achieve customer satisfaction? So as one of the representatives from technology provider company, allow me to address this question. So if you look at what I have answered at the bottom here, how can digital technologies help to achieve customer satisfaction is by enabling good customer experience. So it sounds so cliche, right? Like I know we hear this all the time, that you need to have a good customer experience to drive the customer satisfaction. And take note of the word that I'm using, enabling. Yeah, and this is purposely because yes, technology is only an enabler. We will talk about this later. Yeah, so how can digital technologies help to achieve customer satisfaction? I make my few slides very simple actually. This is afternoon session, so I don't want to make it very difficult. I just have a few slides. So let's look at how can we enable the good customer experience. So when we talk about good customer experience, so what truly makes a good customer experience? I'm using this principle of standing in the shoulder of a giant, yeah, by Sir Isaac Newton, because if you stand in the shoulder of a giant, so you will be able to see more. So for that reason, this good customer experience has been a subject of interest and have been many research. And I decided to leverage on this piece by Pricewaterhouse, yeah, by PwC, on what truly makes for a good customer experience. So if you can see that the top 4 points there, they are very simple. Speed, everyone want fast service, convenient, easy, right? Consistency, you want to have a consistent experience. You know, you transact today and you transact tomorrow. You want it to be consistent. You actually engage into a common experience. And the other thing is friendliness. So these 4 are very clear. I guess everyone understand what speed, convenient, consistency, and friendliness mean. And I would like to add one more thing at the bottom there. And one big connector is human touch. That is creating real connections by making technology feel more human and giving employees what they need to create better customer experience. So it's mouthful here. There are a few keywords. Human touch. This was mentioned by Dato of OCBC in the CEO forum this morning. Yeah. So in our excitement about all this technology, digital solutions and all that, let's not forget one thing which is very important, which is a human touch. So using the human touch in creating a real connection, by making technology feel more human and giving employees what they need to create customer experience. So this is the challenge, how to use technology to make the experience feel more human without creating frustration to customers while empowering employees. I would like to give you an example. Nowadays, you know, especially because of this COVID-19, everyone is talking about digital onboarding so that you don't have to go to the bank anymore to open an account. So there's such thing called digital onboarding. So in digital onboarding, you can actually do a self-service digital onboarding, and you can also do assisted service digital onboarding. So imagine you are from the comfort of your own home trying to digitally onboard yourself, right? So this is a self-service. So how can you make a human touch? Let's say if this particular customer trying to onboard him or herself and you know stuck with a problem, so there can be a technology or a video live support that the customer can immediately call the call center and be guided on how to open the account, you know, and that also technology where the call support center can take over, you know, the screen of the user to help to guide on certain things. So this is an example where you can add human touch to a technology solution. So I recap on this slide, what makes truly a good customer experience. There are 4 common things: speed, convenience, consistency, and friendliness. Let's not forget one another very important thing, which is human touch, right? So let's go to the next slide, please. So when we talk about human touch versus technology, right? Let's just, you know, be practical about it. I just would like to, you know, share some points here so that we become pragmatic. We understand that customer doesn't want everything to be automated. There's certain things that customer want to be automated. What are the things that customer wants to be automated? Those are like processes that have annoying paperwork, for example. Those things that make them wait. Those things that require them to travel. Those things that are regular mundane transactions. So for these things, they will be happy if these are automated, right? But there are things that they don't want to be automated. What are they? Those are like, you know, those are that involve emotion, confusing, require trust, social, or that requires interaction, right? I do not want to go into specific detail and argue about this because what make something mundane would not be the same for everyone. For some people who are very technology savvy, you know, for them, using a certain technological solution will be very easy, and to them they are mundane. But not for some people. Some people, you know, may find it very difficult even to engage on a certain, you know, technological tool. So, but what important here is for us to understand that there are processes that the customer wants to be automated. There are processes that customer don't want to be automated. And what they are, it really depends on the customer, because different customers have different needs and different customers have got different exposure. So therefore, you know, certain things they are more comfortable dealing with human. So in us coming up with whatever the technological solution, we always have to have this in mind. Another dimension that we need to have in mind is what computers are best at and what humans are best at, right? So what computers are best at, you know, like those repetitive tasks involving mathematics, data manipulation, parallel processing. So these are things that computers are better at. But there are things that humans are better at, like for example, those that require communication and engagement, you know, that require certain context and general knowledge, creativity, empathy, right? So these are the things that the customer humans are better at. So that's why, like I said at the beginning just now, when we talk about the customer satisfaction, it's actually a very subjective topic. What something can satisfy a customer may not satisfy another customer, because this customer do have different needs. So therefore, different technology solution depending on different needs. So I give you a simple example, right? Everyone is talking about millennial generation, that they don't want to be visiting branches, for example, to do transaction, right? So maybe the answer will be technology, you know, mobile solution. But we need to understand that not everyone is actually enjoying the same infrastructure, right? Some people may be having a very good mobile technologies, mobile phones, smartphones with good internet connection. But some people at the rural area, they are probably in the B40 that cannot even afford a smartphone. Even if they have smartphone, they do not have a good internet connection, for example. So it doesn't matter how sophisticated your solutions are, it will not serve the purpose for some people. So we need to understand this, right? So we need to understand what is better in technology, what is better done by human, but whether whatever the solution that we do serve the purpose, you know, for the needs of the customer, right? So for this particular slide, I will leave at that. I would like to go to the next slide. Can we have the next slide, please? Because when we talk about this technology versus human, you're talking about using digital technology to achieve customer satisfaction. Of course, the term that will come to our mind will be digital transformation, because again, this is the topic of the day. Everyone is talking about digital transformation. So when we talk about digital transformation, right, it's really at the center of people, processes, and tools. I think in the topic here, they talk about technology. So here is actually technology represent the tools. So the digital transformation is really at the center of these people, processes, and tools or technology. But remember what I mentioned at the very beginning of my slide. Technology isn't the financial solution. It's only an enabler. It's only the tool, right? So in the digital transformation, whatever solution that you're trying to come up with to achieve, to drive the customer satisfaction, you have to incorporate the people aspect of it, you have to incorporate the processes aspect of it, and you have to incorporate the technology or the tool aspects of it. And you combine this and you focus on experience to align the priorities. So remember that great employee experience brings together smarter, more innovative ideas, which will drive future business and superb customer experience. So you have to make sure that the employee experience is good first, because we're expecting that this employee, you know, to serve the customers. So if the employees are upset, how can the employee make the customer happy, right? So this is basically the point of digital transformation. Can we go to the next slide, please? I just have one more slide. So talking about that, this is actually what we do in Silverlake, right? So I talk about experience so many times. So like, for example, this is our banking solution here. So we have a solution that we have developed to drive the experiential banking that covers both, yeah? It's a core engine to redefine how your customers and your users, which are your employee, that will experience the bank. So a core engine to redefine how your customers will experience your product, a core engine how to redefine your users will experience the bank, so that these users will be able to serve the customer better and to make the customer happy and more satisfied. So I would like to wrap up. The point here is the customer experience is a very subjective topic. You can use the digital technology as an enabler, but the digital solution does not fit into one size fits all kind of solution. Different customers have got different needs, right? So therefore, use the technology, align it with the processes, do it according to the customer needs. You have to understand what the customer needs and come up with a solution that can serve this particular customer. So with that, I end my presentation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was a great presentation because you did not forget the human touch is important in the whole process, because sometimes we are conflicted with the technology comes first or people come first. You know, I mean, finally, the customer must be satisfied. Sometimes we are overwhelmed by the technology, and then that leaves the customers very frustrated. Even in calls when we make to some of the, not necessarily banks, even to any other organization, they'll keep on asking you to press this number, press this number. By the time you reach who you want to speak to, sometimes the calls get disconnected. So giving us a lot of frustration. So the importance is to balance between, as you correctly said, speed, convenience, consistency, and friendliness, and never forget the human touch. And I think as the next speaker, of course, Dato Nora is the Chief Human Capital Officer of Maybank, and hopefully she will touch on how the human aspect of technology will be helping the financial institutions and other organizations with technology. Dato Nora, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Vaseehar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon. I think Othman has been very thorough, and he's covered almost everything. What I could probably offer to the conversation, and this is a panel, so is to really bring us back to purpose, right? What business are we in, right? So absolutely right. It's all about the customer. But the customer, for me, is expanded in its definition. It's the S in the ESG, it's society, right? And within society, you have the customer group, you have employees, you have the shareholders, and the population at large. So, and the community, right? The population at large, which is community. So we, to me, are in the business of financial well-being, and financial well-being is the core for total well-being. So if we look at it from that angle, of course, the answer is of course, right? We'll have to bring people, tech, and process, I hesitate to use the word process, to meet the needs of the customers, right? Of the society at large. Now, what do I mean by that? I said I hesitate to use processes because there is a tendency for reactions to then go about the old ways of trying to re-engineer and redesign processes. You and I know that it's all about redesigning a complete customer experience. That is one of the lessons I think that COVID-19 has taught us. So it's not about eliminating pain. I totally agree, right? There is a minimum expectation already, and I hope we've all matured. And especially after the last 18 months of going through the world's largest experiment together, where again, it's systemic, right? The industry, society at large, all went through the same experiment, and we all speak the same language in terms of tech and digital literacy. It's really about looking at what, therefore, is building better all about, right? And so for banks as well, right? There is a need to have another round of self-reflection, right? In terms of, that's why I start with purpose. So there are minimum expectations. I don't even want to, go there, right? As in the bar has been raised, the use of tech is expected. For me, it's man, machine, and algo. It's the balancing of these three versus process. So I want to replace process with algo, right? It's here to stay. Humans are here to stay too, machines. And, truly we are now in a position where we have to deliver, like I said, to minimum expectations in terms of what were we talking about when we said machines and algo tech will augment human performance, right? So minimum expectations, of course, I don't have to elaborate. It's about people wanting, and it's a minimum expectation that loans are no longer going to take them weeks and months or even days, right? It's in minutes now. That's, again, a done deal. It's supposed to be something that we in the industry are able to provide. But coming back to purpose, then I want to lift our conversations because it does require a whole lot more, right? It is about restoring dignity to me. Tech has restored dignity. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me give you some examples, right? Easy examples. First, outside banking, and then I want to transpose that into banking. Grab and Uber, which we now take for granted. I have a real example of how a family was about to be broken because the husband was not earning enough, and he's a lorry driver, right? This is before Uber, right, or during the time of Uber. And the wife was working so hard, earning and taking care of their 5 children, and she's had it, right? So the marriage was about to be broken, and here comes Uber, okay, which is a solution that was made possible because of an app, right? Short story. The person that left his job, his permanent job as a lorry driver, which was not paying very much, became an Uber driver, could control, the time that he was driving, chose to then drive at night, could then take care of the children and help the wife. So she got back her husband, the children got back their father, the marriage was saved. So that is how I look at technology. That's how I look at the tools that humans are provided with because of tech. So with banking and financial well-being, what therefore are we supposed to be looking at in terms of solutioning for the man on the street, the retail, the small businesses, and right through to corporate banking and the likes and multinationals. So solutioning to make sure their well-being, their financial well-being is taken care of. I would therefore offer that perspective to this conversation. And yes, of course, then what does it take? It takes an entire remodeling of the organization, which we've been tinkering and tinkering with prior to COVID, which didn't really make much difference. We knew that the organizational structure has not been working for several decades now, but we persisted, right? The answer to silo mentalities and disjointed solutions to the customer was met with a reorganization. Right? And we've been doing that over and over. And really, Einstein says we're insane, right? And we talked about the fact that tech will give humans superpowers, right? To be able to focus on the customer better. But let's take a quick look. Let's take a quick survey. How many jobs have actually been redesigned? we didn't really make much traction. So, you know, with COVID-19, where we are today, and we all know this, I know I'm not preaching to the converted, but we therefore are in a better place to really challenge ourselves and make those remodels that we've talked about. So for staff, in order for them to be looking at the business from that perspective, from a purpose perspective, yes, of course, we need to look at how to make sure that workforce reconfiguration is taken seriously, which is why we in Maybank quickly took the opportunity so that the crisis does not go to waste. So we went to the board just 6 months into the MCO, actually, in Malaysia last year, and said to the board, this is an opportunity for us to look at workforce strategy in a very in a different way, which will, inshallah, God willing, make our business more sustainable going forward. And we got our work from home permanent category approved. So by the end of the year, we had already made 2,000 of our workforce, given them official notification that they are going to be working from home or mobile. We're not talking about lockdown perpetually. So it's working from home permanently. And today we are close to about 4,000 already. Now, what does that mean? On its own, it's not really meaningful, but what it means is there will be a requirement for us to re-strategize in terms of resourcing and the makeup of resources. Otherwise, we will not be able to get the right resources for the business moving forward, which is not going to be looking like the business of banking in the past. With that comes, of course, the need to look at how they are incentivized, how they are measured, and how they are rewarded. These are also management tools that has been persisting for decades before COVID-19 with little tweaks, but didn't really work to the purpose, if you like, of the business. I think, you know, I might leave it there for now. It really is, like I said, about making sure that we're not jumping into another, you know, process of tweaking our what we have and looking at processes without remodeling it in totality. So, you know, incremental is not going to work as we remodel the business moving forward, and in solving the pain of society. And I am focusing us on sustainability, on the S in the ESG. But what is required, I put it to you, is for every organization to actually look at a few bold initiatives to reinvent the operations model of banks towards the purpose of our business. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato Nora. You really took a very holistic and what I would call a view from the top, not purely from Maybank or financial institutions. You spoke about the entire organizational life and organizational setting, how we could redesign. Of course, given the pressure of COVID, which has made us act faster than otherwise we would have. And I also appreciate you talking about the S, meaning the society, rather than just your clients or customers or employees. You're taking it, you really provided a big picture and the purpose of restoring dignity to human life and then redesigning the entire organizational life. And as usual, you know, I have always been impressed because you were the first bank to come with the maternity leave for longer than normal, right? You give about 6 months or something like that.
Yeah.
It was something very, I would call very innovative in our setting in Malaysia. Of course, in Europe and elsewhere, it's quite common. And now you have said that almost 4,000 of your staff could be permanently working from home. These are very innovative and redesigning, as you said, and wish you all the best in your endeavor to get the whole organization to be redesigned, and hopefully you will become a model for other institutions to follow, not necessarily banks, every other organization. Thank you very much for that presentation. And next we will have our Professor Dr. Azmi Omar. I've not seen him for a while. I think the last time we were in a conference somewhere in India several years ago. After that, I've not met him. Hope he's well. And he is one of the enablers by providing the human capital or training the human capital, because not many organizations provide adequate training in Malaysia. I'm not sure how I know that Petronas spends a lot of money on human capital development. I'm sure Maybank is also doing a fair bit. Maybe later, Dr. Nikolai can throw some light on how much in Malaysia we spend on human capital development. Now let's listen to Professor Dr. Azmi, what he has to say about developing and achieving customer satisfaction.
Okay, thank you very much, Dato Vaseehar. Fellow panel members, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon to all participants. First, let me thank the organizer for inviting me to speak at this summit. Again, it's always good to see colleagues. Dato Vaseehar has been, we met a couple of times, and the last was during pre-COVID times. Well, we hope we are able to meet again after things come back to normal. But let me go back to the topic at hand, that is on the customer experience and customer satisfaction. Let me begin by sharing with you a couple of statistics. I think the first statistic that I would like to share is that, again, this is based on a couple of studies. 69% of customers who plan to leave their bank say it was due to poor services rather than poor products. So 69% of customers who plan to leave their bank say it was due to poor services rather than poor products. That's one. Secondly, second statistics, more than 61% of bank executives believe that customer-centric business model is very important, and yet only 17% are prepared to execute. So as you can see, the statistics that customer experience, which translated into good customer satisfaction, are important elements in this particular case. So in this era, or what we call the COVID-19 pandemic era, what can a bank do to enhance customer experience? Here, I will share 3 points, okay? 3 major points that I believe are very important for banks to consider in order to enhance further customer experience and therefore increase customer satisfaction. This is in relation to what we are facing today. Number one is help customers go digital, which means that customers need to go digital. As we know now, we have increasing digitalization, and because of physical distance requirements and so on, social physical distance requirements, we now see businesses have moved into the digital sphere. So how banks can support particularly the micro and SMEs, small and medium enterprises, to go into digital. And this is a very important role that a bank must play in this particular situation. So let me talk a bit about what we do at INCEIF. So at INCEIF, what we are doing now is that we are working with 1 or 2 Islamic banks to develop programs to assist micro and SMEs to not only go digital, but also to provide them with financing and Islamic social finance funds, the utilization of zakat and sadaqah funds for these micro and small businesses. As you know, many micro and small businesses are deeply affected or greatly affected due to COVID-19. So we need to provide solutions to that. So as a training provider, a university, we provide solutions and we provide programs for Islamic financial institutions. For example, we work with, at these 2 banks, we develop programs whereby that programs consist not only in terms of capacity building, but also providing business equipments to the small and business enterprises that meet certain requirements. For example, if they are what we call under the Malay name Asnaf, the zakat beneficiaries, they are given zakat fund not only for training, that is capacity building, but they're also given business equipments for them to do their business and improve their business further. So we use a combination of training, capacity building, and funding coming both from bank, Islamic bank, plus from zakat fund in order to bring them into digital space, as well as to make sure that they get the right training, right guidance in order for them to improve their businesses. So that's the first point, helping customers to go digital. Second point that I want to highlight here is that banks need to introduce new experience for distressed customers. We know that many customers are facing problems now, particularly those either individuals, individuals who are, for example, retrenched, as well as companies that are facing serious difficulties, both SMEs and micro. So how banks can assist those customers? And that's very important, because it will then see, customers will see how banks are, are concerned about the conditions of their customers and help them to bring to a better situation once the economy improves. So that's the second point, introducing new experience for distressed customers. So the third point that I want to highlight is the point of you need to have good employee experience to have good customer experience. If bank employees do not have good experience, this will be reflected into bad customer experience. Hence, what you need to do is you need to reskill your employees. So you need to reskill your employees in order for them to have good employee experience. This will then translate into good customer experience. For example, at INCEIF, what we are doing now is that we are at the forefront in talent development in Islamic finance, in Islamic social finance. Islamic social finance refers to the application of zakat, wakaf, and sadaqah for the categories of beneficiaries, particularly for zakat beneficiaries. So we utilize Islamic social finance in order to support financial institutions and to support the micro and small business in order for them to go to the next level, the next economic level. So we are at the forefront providing that talent development in Islamic finance, in Islamic social finance, as well as sustainability business. What we mean by sustainability business is that today sustainability agenda is very important. We cannot ignore the fact that the world is affected by climate change. We need to consider the element of environment. We need to consider the element of social and governance in the banking decision. So INCEIF is very much involved in the sustainable business, and we have to train banks in terms of how do we incorporate those ESG in their decision making, be it in the context of credit decision as well as in the risk decision. So we provide not only master's and PhD program, but more importantly, I think for people who are not able to do full-time study, now what we have is called micro-credential courses. In Malaysia, we have many universities, including INCEIF. We have small packet of courses. For example, if you want to know a bit about, say, for example, what is Islamic finance? So you take a micro course, which lasted for 1 to 2 hours, and you can learn snippets of Islamic finance. So courses are now broken down into smaller components, and you can take those courses online at your own pace. And so this is what's happening in the world of education. This is provided not only by Malaysian universities, talent providers, but also, universities outside Malaysia. So the micro-credential courses are very important now for our bankers, for example, to enhance their knowledge, not only in the context of technical knowledge, but also certain behavioral skills knowledge are also available in the context of micro-credential courses. We also provide, of course, executive training programs, not only in Malaysia, but abroad. For example, recently we trained central bankers from Philippines, the Banco Central Philippines, as well as the Bangsa Moro in Mindanao, training them on Islamic microfinance because Philippines requires, skills in terms of how they can provide Islamic microfinance to their customers in Mindanao area, the Muslims area. So it's important for us to provide not only the typical banking, takaful, capital market training courses, but also in Islamic microfinance, as well as the Islamic social finance. So this kind of courses that enables bankers to provide solutions, not only in the context of the commercial banking solutions, but also in the Islamic social finance solutions. And I think those are important knowledge that bankers require. Apart from that, of course, bankers require typical knowledge now, particularly in terms of agility, in terms of digital fluency, analytics, decision science. These are very important knowledge that bankers should have. So, but we are glad also to see that many banks are incorporating those knowledge and include that as part of the training program. For Islamic banks, for example, they have incorporated sustainability business in their training program. They have incorporated fintech, Islamic fintech. They have also incorporated, some of them have incorporated the Islamic social finance. As I mentioned, they have incorporated training on zakat, sadaqah, wakaf. So those are important components for training. At INCEIF also what we do is that for students who are taking master's program, we also have an important component of what we call the action-based learning, where students are given real problem, and those problems are given by financial institutions or by zakat organizations or NGOs, the problems that they face, and then those problems are then solved by our students as part of their master courses. So those are real life problems, and solutions are provided. Practical solutions are provided by our students, guided by our professors, in order to how resolve issues faced by, for example, the financial institutions. I give one particular example. A lot of Islamic banks have giving out zakat for social welfare programs. So one of the things that we did was by our students was that they developed impact studies. How do you measure the impact of zakat being given to a particular area for a particular project? So those are some examples that we do in order to enhance the skills of our students. At the same time, we incorporate those also as part of the training program for bankers, banks that we are associated with. So again, I thank the organizer for inviting me to share my thoughts on this particular topic. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Dato Azmi. I like your approach of asking the financial institutions to help customers to go digital, facilitating. That will make the job of the banks easier also, rather than selling to them the difficult part of converting them to go digital. If you hold their hands and train them to be digital friendly, that will be easy. And then your second point of using view experience for the experience for distressed customers. I think you have to new experience for the distressed customers, how financial institutions can help specifically under the COVID situation. And the third point, which I would like to emphasize, is the good employee experience to get good customer experience. That cannot be underestimated. Only if you have happy employees, then you can result in getting happy customers. And thank you for pointing out your different methods of teaching and action-based learning, as well as how using the zakat funds with financial institutions for SMEs and then for micro entrepreneurs. This is very useful. Rather than just giving your entire zakat, the financial institutions provide to various states, they can use part of it for their own, developing their own entrepreneurs, micro entrepreneurs, etc. Thank you for your very interesting talk. The final speaker today is Dr. Nikolai Dobberstein from Kearney. Dr. Nikolai, the floor is yours. Please give us your views on this topic. Yeah.
Thank you, Dato. And in my remarks, I want to paint a more contrasting picture and focus on how digital can help improve customer satisfaction, but also if digital is done badly, how it can have a negative impact. Obviously, digital analytics have fundamentally changed the way how we can improve and measure customer satisfaction. It is also clear that customers, and we heard this before, are moving to digital and are expecting companies to deliver fully digital customer experiences. And although some of the underlying ideas of digitalization customer experience are not new, today's technology, especially AI, can make it so much more effective and seamless. And there are many good examples. And I want to just highlight at the beginning two in customer care that are key and are related. It's driving up self-care and creating a step change in first-time right. And we see how digital leaders across industry really combine these two to fundamentally achieve better customer service. And the two examples are, the first one is really making customer engagement more seamless and also intuitive by using, for example, WhatsApp transaction engine for better self-care. It creates a seamless engagement through a preferred communication channel, WhatsApp, which 80% of customers use here in Southeast Asia. And this is not just a chatbot, but it's an automated transaction. It executes orders by providing a fee quotation or giving an account summary. You can even support this with a sentiment analysis to decide if and when to hand over to a real agent. A second example is leveraging both automation and AI enablement to achieve its step change in first-time right. It's clear from all our research and work that true digital leaders have much higher first-time rights in serving customers. And it's still amazing how complex most processes, support systems, information backups, and customer histories are for call center agents. And you can use technology, not new, RPA, AI, ML, to provide agents with much better information, predictive root cause analysis, and personalized customer recommendation. And this enablement of frontliners will remain key, as despite increasing digital engagement, you still need human experience and touches, as we heard from Osman earlier. But there's a big however. If digital is done poorly, it not only creates excess shadow employment, because you still have the same people and limited efficiency gains, but it can also create frustration and actually reduce customer satisfaction. And in fact, some digital enhancements have pushed tasks back onto our customers. And what seems like progression is actually causing more work for the users. And it's driven by two different ways how you can approach digital. Product first or digital first. Product first is you take an existing product and wrap it in a digital layer. For example, you put an insurance application form online and it's still the same form, just online. Or you replace call center agents with chatbots that are pre-programmed and not answering your questions. I, for example, have never had a positive chatbot experience. This is probably not the best way to use digital. And while it might make it in some aspects simpler for the customers, it is unlikely to create a real customer a delightful experience. The second approach is digital first. For example, use AI and insurance to examine your selfie to let the insurer know what your life expectancy will be based on visual cues, such as whether you're a smoker or have hypertension. And the technology already exists. And this really creates a difference in customer experience. And to get there and achieve such a step change in customer satisfaction requires humanizing the digital experience. And three themes are important here. Invisible, intuitive, and intelligent. Invisible is really ubiquitous and cognitive computing, always there, but invisible could be incorporated in variables, used by voice or virtual assistants. Intuitive is frictionless, on-demand, consistently delightful. And intelligence is really based on AI and machine learning, and it's predictive and personalized, segment of one, and contextual. And a great example for this Amazon Go, which is a cashier-less store that lets customers pick up what they want and walk out without the need of a checkout line. And Amazon Go leverages computer vision, sensor fusion, and deep learning to track items as they're being taken from the shelves. And this really shows how digital can make a difference in customer delight. Of course, as we heard also earlier, we have to always remember who are we targeting with what experience. There are clear differences between customer segments. Finally, we have to remember that 70% of corporate digital transformations fail. And getting it right in customer experiences is even more challenging. Often, we as executives project our own logic in what we believe customers want, need, and value. And we forget the underlying emotional aspects and actually sometimes the irrationality of consumers. In fact, a lot of our work in pricing, pricing of services shows clear, though very predictable irrationality in pricing decisions made by customers. Therefore, it is quintessential in any customer experience improvement not to assume, but test, refine for any proposition enhancement. Unfortunately, very few companies are doing this. But let me stop here and later answer any follow-up questions. Thank you, Dato.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it is very important that I think the most important point you raised was if it's badly done, then it's going to be badly executed, then the customer frustration is going to be there. So, I mean, you all used to say garbage in, garbage out. So that's more or less the same thing. And you have to do it right the first time. Many of the institutions, they stinge on investment only to later on find that it is more expensive. You have to do it and then you add on and other things and making every party frustrated. So you have to, as you said, do it first from the beginning. And I liked your humanizing digital experience, invisible, and then intuition, and then intelligence. I think intuitive and intelligence. And I wish that most of our organizations will not, as you said, 70% of digitalization fail, which I'm not surprised, because most of these are done sometimes in a hurry to compete with the other competitors, or you want to get things done in a hurry. So we have a saying in the coaching that go slow, I'm in a hurry. So it's better to do slowly and correctly rather than to rush, and then you find that you are frustrated. And sometimes you know there is a conflict. If it is convenient to the employees, then it may be inconvenient to the customer. Sometimes it can be contradictory. What is convenient to the customer may be a bit more painful to the employee. So how do you compromise that the employees are also able to enjoy what they are doing instead of being dragged on through this just to please the customer? And the customer doesn't get frustrated because whatever they have done is easy for the employees to do, but it makes customers very frustrated. I can give one example. One financial institution sends, for example, the mortgage, monthly mortgage, and then they put other services without identifying what it is, and they put 2,000 or 3,000 addition, and the clients do not know what are these other services. It's most likely an insurance charge or a mortgage insurance for the annual, but they don't clarify it, and the customers get frustrated. I got many customers who came and complained, you see, look at this, the other charges, we don't even know what it is. So it's a kind of a communication problem. So we need to make sure that we communicate and make this easier for the customers as well as for the employees. Now, let us see if we have any questions from the chat box. There are no questions in the chat box. Is there any question and answer from the audience? I don't see any open questions. So maybe we can have an opportunity to discuss among yourselves. And maybe I'll start with Othman. You are one of the biggest service providers for the IT software in the banking industry. And in your experience, how have you been successful in the first attempt, or have you had to do and prolong your engagement because things did not go right? And how do you set it right so that the customers as well as the employees and the banks are all satisfied? How do you bring about satisfaction among all the parties in your experience? Maybe you can share your negative experience as well as your positive experience in meeting.
Okay, thank you, Dato, for the question. I guess as a solution provider, at the very beginning of our journey together with our customer is to define the user requirement. Yeah. So contrary to what people think, as technology provider, we come up with solution that is configurable, composable, that is required to serve the business need. So what we do then, at the very beginning of the implementation for the solution, we will have to define the requirement together with our customer. Customer here means the bank. Bank will have to appoint their users, right? That together define with us what is the future state of the solution that they want to use in the bank and to deliver the service to the customer. So yes, sometimes we come across a situation where the appointed users in the bank don't know what they want, right? So sometimes we have difficulty in defining it, because when they don't know what they want, we will have to propose something, right? So they're not quite sure really what they are going to get. Then come to the user testing period, that's when they discover, this is actually something that, not really meeting their requirement, or something that is actually they want different. So the challenge is very important for us together with the bank, our user, is to define the requirement so that it is actually aligned with the bank priorities. Yeah. Of course, there are other situations where we also have that with customer that, they really have a strategy team. They have people who really define the processes. They really know what they want, They will ask us to, even if we come up with some ready solution, they want us to change and to tweak, to make, to fit into the requirement, because they're really clear. They're really sure what they want. So this will be the other spectrum. So, but in all, at the end of the day, in order to ensure that we embark into a delivery, the journey that is actually successful, that we have to make sure that at the very beginning of the project journey, that we define the requirement together, that after that, once we have defined, then only we go to the next stage. If there is any development to be done, we develop, we test, and then we roll out. Yeah. So these are some of the experience that I can share.
Thank you. I wanted to ask other questions to the presenters, but unfortunately, I have a message that we have to stop the session now because we are waiting for the Deputy Governor's closing remarks. But I really enjoyed all of your presentations, and thank you very much. Let's show our appreciation to our presenters by a virtual clap to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.